In the small provincial town of Willow Creek, every night the thick shadows of the forest, enveloping it from all sides, peered into the windows of the houses. The residents were accustomed to their solitude and believed that this was what protected them from the bustle and problems of the outside world. On summer evenings, they gathered around the fires and told their children stories, sometimes old, sometimes fictitious. The main characters were always mysterious lights that, according to the old people, were visible in the depths of the forest. No one remembered exactly when this light appeared, and no one knew what it meant. But everyone believed that the night when the light disappeared would bring trouble. The main character of the story, Sarah O'Donnell, came to Willow Creek after inheriting her Aunt Ellen's house. She was a city dweller and accustomed to the noise and light of the big streets, so the strange calm of Willow Creek caused her a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The house where her aunt once lived was shrouded in a mysterious atmosphere. The pictures on the walls, covered in dust, were darkening with time, and the floorboards creaked as if someone was watching all the time. One evening, Sarah noticed that there was not enough light in the room on the second floor, where the old library was located. She could not shake the feeling that the shadows were getting longer, as if the nights in this house were alive. Sarah decided to read the books left by her aunt, hoping to learn more about her life in this strange place. Among the old volumes, she found a diary in which her aunt described the lights in the forest. Stars in the forest, Ellen called them. They watch us every night, whisper secrets and warn of danger. The next night, Sarah decided to go to the forest. The lights seemed enchanting to her. They moved, flickered, and attracted her gaze, as if luring her. Closer to midnight, she approached the very edge of the forest, seeing how the light began to pulse, like a living creature. Suddenly, one of the lights separated from the others and floated towards Sarah. She recoiled in surprise, but the light seemed to know what she would do, and froze for a moment. She was surrounded by cold and ringing silence. At first, Sarah thought that she had simply become a victim of her own fears. But then something in her head began to whisper words that she had never heard before. "You came, like them," sounded somewhere nearby. At that moment, the stars began to go out one by one. Soon only darkness remained. The dim light of the mysterious forest disappeared, and the trees were consumed by an almost tangible horror. She ran back to the house, but turning around saw that the forest seemed to follow her. The roots of the trees began to crawl out into the light and stretch towards her feet. Finally reaching her yard, she noticed that all the lights in her house were out, and the only window in the attic glowed with a reddish light, as if it was not a window, but a terrible eye watching her every move. The next day, Sarah met an old man named Thomas, who was standing in the town square and muttering something. He was one of the few who had heard stories about the forest stars from his grandmother. Seeing Sarah, he whispered to her, "If the light disappears, the darkness will take." Trying to understand what she heard, Sarah went to the town library and found legends about rituals that were performed in the forest to protect against dark forces. When the next night came, when the stars did not appear in the sky again, Sarah took an old book of rituals and went to the forest. She began to read the words, hoping to bring back the light, but it seemed that the darkness around only grew deeper. She felt the lights flickering again, not in the sky, but deep in the forest. Shadows surrounded her, and she realized that there were figures in the forest now, not just lights. Sarah continued to read, her voice confident and loud, but the shadows came closer and closer, as if they wanted to silence her. And then the last light appeared, the one that had led her to the forest. It stopped in front of her, as if protecting her. Suddenly, a sharp sound was heard around her, and Sarah felt the ground beneath her feet shake. The light grew brighter, and its light seemed to cut through the darkness, illuminating the way back. Sarah ran toward the city, her heart pounding with terror and relief. She did not look back until she reached the town square, but when she looked back, she saw that the lights in the forest were burning again. They were no longer dark and ominous, but glowed with a soft light, as if they were protecting Willow Creek. Old Thomas watched her and nodded, saying, "You made the right choice. Now the stars have returned."